Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing. At this hour, a desperate search is underway for MH Flight 370. Air traffic control lost contact with the plane about 2 hours after takeoff. Whether the disappearance is due to mechanical problems, pilot error, or even terrorism is yet to be determined.
Media reports radar contact with the plane was lost in Vietnamese airspace.
This is very rare. For an airplane to disappear is not normal. I think we have, at this hour, every reason to expect that this is not going to be a good outcome. A big airplane like this, losing radar contact, it usually ends up in tragedy. It would be over water for most of its trip. So there's a chance that this aircraft went down in the water, which is going to make the rescue or make the recovery efforts that much harder.
On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished without a trace, leaving 239 lives and countless families in a nightmare with no answers. For over a decade, the world has searched relentlessly, only to be met with dead ends and heartbreaking speculation. But now, a new breakthrough has emerged. Underwater drones have uncovered a game-changing discovery that could finally reveal the truth. What if the answers we've been searching for are closer than we ever imagined?
Now today marks the 10th anniversary of the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370.
Malaysia Flight 370 vanished in 2014, 239 people on board.
The incident began as a routine flight. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, heading towards Beijing, China, at just after midnight on March 8th. There were 239 people aboard, including passengers and crew, all of whom were expecting a normal overnight journey. However, less than an hour into the flight, something went wrong. By 1:07 a.m., the aircraft sent its final communication, a routine data system update from the plane's ACARS aircraft communications addressing and reporting system. There were no signs of trouble, just the standard check-in message. But moments later, at 1:19 a.m., the pilot made his final radio call, "Good night, Malaysian 370. It would be the last transmission heard from the aircraft.
A critical discovery in the search for answers to the mystery of what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. This broken bit of airplane wreckage, more than 6 feet long, washed up on the French island of Reunion in the Indian Ocean. A first step toward closure for the families who've had no real answers until now. It appears to be the very first physical clue found 16 months after the Boeing 777 carrying 239 people vanished into thin air.
A mere 2 minutes after that last communication, the plane's transponder, which is responsible for transmitting the aircraft's location to radar systems, was turned off. This was no malfunction. The transponder was deliberately switched off, and this action would trigger the start of a long and baffling mystery. As the plane continued its flight, it vanished from civilian radar screens. However, military radar tracked the plane as it made an unexplained westward turn, heading away from its planned flight path. It flew across the Malay Peninsula, continuing undetected by the commercial systems that usually track such flights. The final radar contact occurred at 2:22 a.m., when the aircraft was located approximately 200 nautical miles northwest of Penang Island. After that, radio communication with the plane ceased entirely. Despite the lack of direct communication or radar data, the plane's satellite data unit continued to send automated pings to a satellite network until 8:19 a.m. These pings were picked up intermittently, indicating that the aircraft was still airborne for hours after it had lost contact. The final ping, which was likely sent just before the plane ran out of fuel, is believed to have marked the end of the flight. From then on, there was no further information on the aircraft's location. The plane is thought to have crashed somewhere in the Indian Ocean, though no one has been able to confirm its final resting place. What makes the MH370 case so perplexing is that, in an age of sophisticated technology, the plane just disappeared without a trace. In the immediate aftermath, the initial search efforts focused on the South China Sea, where it was thought the plane had gone down. However, it quickly became clear that this theory was incorrect. By the time the search teams realized the plane had veered off course, they were already looking in the wrong place, wasting valuable time. The Malaysian search and rescue operations only began in earnest after 6:30 a.m., over 4 hours after the plane's last known contact, making the challenge of locating the plane even more difficult. In the days following the disappearance, the search area expanded. Military radar revealed that the aircraft had made a sharp westward turn, and the investigation shifted to the Strait of Malacca and the Andaman Sea. The search operation quickly grew into one of the largest and most expensive aviation searches in history, with resources pooled from around the globe. The operation saw 29 planes, 6 helicopters, 18 ships, and the involvement of 26 countries, with satellites being used to help locate the plane's final position. Even Chinese satellites were brought into the effort, with 20 of them contributing to the search. By March 15th, Malaysia's Prime Minister Najib Razak confirmed that the aircraft had continued to fly for several hours after losing radar contact. The new information, based on satellite data, suggested 2 potential flight paths, one heading northwest towards Central Asia and the other southwest into the southern Indian Ocean. Tragically, as more data was analyzed, the likelihood of the plane heading into the remote and harsh southern Indian Ocean became the most probable scenario. This part of the ocean is known for its brutal conditions and isolation, making the search even more difficult. Families of the passengers, gathered in Beijing, were left in limbo, with some crying, others frustrated, and all of them devastated by the uncertainty. As the search continued, cracks began to appear in the international collaboration. Many countries were reluctant to share critical data, citing concerns about national security. Satellite data was delayed, and some nations, particularly China, faced pressure from the international community over their handling of the situation. Despite the collective efforts, it became clear that finding the wreckage would not be as simple as expected. On March 24th, Malaysian officials made the heartbreaking announcement, based on the analysis of the satellite data. Flight MH370 had most likely ended its journey in the southern Indian Ocean. Tragically, the official statement confirmed that there were no survivors. However, there was no wreckage found, only the shocking conclusion that the plane had crashed somewhere in the vast and remote ocean. The absence of any physical evidence, particularly the wreckage, left the families of the passengers devastated. Some received the news via text message, an impersonal and painful way to learn of the death of a loved one. The initial lack of closure only fueled the spread of wild theories about the plane's fate. Was it hijacked? Did mechanical failure cause the crash? Why had the plane seemingly vanished off the radar without a trace? These questions remained unanswered, and the more time passed, the more speculation grew. Despite the ongoing uncertainty, over the years, small pieces of wreckage began to wash up on distant shores. The first confirmed piece was a flaperon, found on Union Island in the Indian Ocean in 2015. This discovery, while confirming that the plane had likely crashed in the southern Indian Ocean, provided little comfort to the families, who were still searching for concrete answers. Over time, additional pieces of debris were found on beaches along the African coast and in other parts of the Indian Ocean. While these pieces supported the theory that the plane had crashed in that region, they did little to bring the investigation closer to an answer. As years passed, the search became more focused on the ocean floor. Various underwater vehicles, including autonomous drones, were used to scan the ocean depths, mapping large sections of the seafloor in search of the plane. Yet, despite extensive efforts, no major wreckage was found. The official search was eventually called off in 2017 after covering a priority area of 120,000 square kilometers. The operation had cost an astonishing $155 million, but it had not yielded the crucial piece of evidence that would confirm the plane's final location. Although the search officially ended, a private company called Ocean Infinity continued its efforts in 2018, using a fleet of autonomous underwater vehicles Ocean Infinity managed to search an additional 112,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. Yet again, no sign of the wreckage was found. This marked the continuation of a search that had become a symbol of the relentless quest for answers. However, despite the lack of success, the data collected during these underwater searches proved invaluable for scientific research, helping to map previously uncharted areas of the Indian Ocean. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 remains one of the most mysterious and tragic events in aviation history. 11 years have passed, and while small pieces of the puzzle have been uncovered, the most important question, what exactly happened to the plane, remains unanswered. However, there is a glimmer of hope. Advanced underwater drone technology has brought new possibilities for the search, and in 2025, a renewed search effort is underway. Could this finally be the breakthrough that families have been waiting for all these years? Only time will tell, but the search for MH370 is far from over. The search for Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 evolved into one of the most challenging and expensive aviation search operations ever conducted. After the aircraft's disappearance on March 8, 2014, the world was left in disbelief. The plane vanished from radar, leaving authorities, search teams, and the families of those aboard in an overwhelming state of confusion. What followed was an unprecedented global effort to find the missing aircraft, a search that would span years and encompass vast areas of the Earth's oceans. In the initial hours following the plane's disappearance, there was a significant lack of coordination and confusion regarding the search efforts. Flight MH370's last known communication with air traffic control occurred at 1:19 when the pilot made a routine radio call, "Good night, Malaysian 370. This was followed by the deliberate shutdown of the plane's transponder, which caused it to disappear from civilian radar screens. This action was the first indication that the disappearance was no ordinary incident. Someone had intentionally turned off the plane's transponder, taking it off the grid. However, military radar continued to track the plane, and it was soon revealed that the aircraft made a sharp westward turn, deviating from its intended flight path. The plane flew across the Malay Peninsula, making a strange course change that would baffle investigators for years to come. It was in the early stages of this search that the biggest challenges began to surface. The search initially focused on the South China Sea, as authorities believed the plane had crashed somewhere near that area. This assumption was based on initial satellite data, which indicated the plane may have continued on its original flight path. However, the plane was already far off course, and the assumption proved to be misguided. As the search expanded, the Malaysian authorities realized that the plane had flown far beyond the South China Sea, and that its location was not as straightforward as initially thought. The search efforts began to take shape as the military radar data was analyzed, revealing the plane's mysterious westward turn. Based on this new information, the search shifted dramatically. The focus moved to the Strait of Malacca, and then to the Andaman Sea. The scale of the search operation increased significantly, with international cooperation from a wide range of countries, including Malaysia, China, Australia, the United States, and others. The involvement of these nations helped to pool resources, and soon the operation included 29 planes, 6 helicopters, and 18 ships, as well as contributions from satellites. China alone provided 20 satellites to assist in locating the aircraft. The search area expanded dramatically, covering nearly 7.7 million square kilometers of ocean, a staggering area that made the search akin to finding a needle in a haystack. At this stage, the search became a monumental task. The coordination between countries was far from perfect, with countries hesitant to share sensitive military data and satellite information. National security concerns were a significant obstacle, as governments feared that releasing military data could reveal critical intelligence to adversaries. This lack of full transparency created a barrier to the efficiency of the operation, and despite the high-tech equipment and vast resources involved, the search for MH370 was anything but easy. The first few days of the search were chaotic, with the authorities looking in the wrong location. The search teams were still operating under the assumption that the plane had crashed in the South China Sea, but the plane had already veered far off course. The Malaysian search and rescue operation didn't truly begin until after 6:30 a.m. on the day of the disappearance, over 4 hours after the plane's last known communication. This delay proved to be detrimental, as it meant that critical time was lost before the search could be redirected to the correct location. By the time the shift in the search area occurred, it became clear that the operation would not be a quick or easy one. The turning point in the investigation came on March 15th, when Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak confirmed that the plane had likely continued flying for hours after losing contact with air traffic control. Based on satellite data, it was revealed that the plane's last known location was either to the northwest, towards Central Asia, or to the southwest in the southern Indian Ocean. As the search teams analyzed the data further, the likelihood of the plane having crashed in the southern Indian Ocean became the most probable theory. This part of the ocean is known for its remoteness and difficult conditions, which made the search even more challenging. While the search continued, the families of the passengers and crew were left in a state of despair, with many gathering at a designated center in Beijing, waiting for any word about their loved ones. The grief and confusion of the families were compounded by the lack of clear communication from the authorities. Some families waited for news for days, while others were forced to contend with conflicting reports and unreliable information. For many, the uncertainty was unbearable, as they waited for any shred of evidence that could explain what had happened to their loved ones. Unfortunately, the reality was that, at that time, no one had any definitive answers. On March 24th, Malaysian officials made the heartbreaking announcement that based on the analysis of satellite data, it was now believed that flight MH370 had ended its journey in the southern Indian Ocean. No wreckage had been found, and no survivors were expected. The official confirmation was devastating for the families, who were now faced with the grim reality that their loved ones were gone. To make matters worse, the families received this news through impersonal text messages, which was seen by many as a callous and insensitive way to inform them of such a tragic event. The absence of a phone call or personal communication added to the emotional pain of the families, who were still struggling to comprehend the situation. As the months passed, the search continued, albeit with a growing sense of frustration. Theories about what had happened to the plane began to proliferate, with some suggesting that the plane had been hijacked, while others believed it was a mechanical failure of some kind. These theories only added to the confusion, and it was clear that the mystery of MH370 would not be solved easily. Theories ranged from plausible explanations to far-fetched ideas, but the one common thread was that no one had any concrete evidence to explain the plane's disappearance. Despite the widespread speculation, a breakthrough finally came in 2015, when a piece of the plane's wing known as a flaperon washed up on Reunion Island, a small French territory in the Indian Ocean. This was the first confirmed piece of wreckage from flight MH370, and it brought some closure to the families, although the discovery was bittersweet. Over the following years, more pieces of debris were found along the coasts of Africa and other nearby islands, providing further evidence that the plane had crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. However, the full wreckage of the plane remained elusive, and the search continued. The search efforts took on a new focus when it became clear that the wreckage was likely located underwater. In response, a more sophisticated search was launched, with underwater vehicles being used to map large portions of the ocean floor. These vehicles, which included autonomous underwater drones, used sonar technology to scan the ocean for any signs of the wreckage. However, despite extensive efforts, no significant discoveries were made, and the search was eventually called off in 2017, after covering 120,000 square kilometers. The costs of the search were staggering, amounting to $155 million, but the results were disappointing. The search for MH370 didn't end there. In 2018, a private company called Ocean Infinity stepped in with a new approach. They believed they could succeed where previous efforts had failed, using a fleet of autonomous underwater vehicles to search an additional 112,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. Despite these new efforts, the wreckage remained elusive, and the search was ultimately called off in 2020. However, the data collected during the search proved to be valuable for scientific research, and it expanded our knowledge of the Indian Ocean's floor. As the years went on, the hope of finding MH370 seemed to fade, but the mystery of the plane's disappearance remained. The families of the passengers were left with unanswered questions, and the world continued to wonder what had happened to the flight that vanished without a trace. The search, while costly and exhaustive, had not brought closure. Yet, despite the setbacks, there was still a glimmer of hope that one day the truth would be uncovered. As the years passed without finding Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, the search for answers shifted to new methods and technologies that had not been available during the initial search efforts. The initial hunt for the plane was based on the best technology available at the time, such as radar, satellites, and sonar. However, as the search area expanded and the mystery deepened, experts realized that finding the wreckage of the plane in the vastness of the Indian Ocean would require cutting-edge technology. Over time, various technological advancements were introduced, giving hope to both investigators and the families of the passengers that the plane might finally be found. One of the most significant changes in the search efforts occurred when it became clear that the plane was not going to be found on the ocean's surface. The focus shifted to underwater exploration, as it was increasingly understood that the wreckage of Flight MH370 might be located deep on the ocean floor, hidden from the radar and satellite systems that had failed to detect it. The search teams began using autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, a type of robotic submarine, to dive to depths previously thought to be unreachable for human exploration. These autonomous underwater vehicles, built to withstand extreme pressures and conditions, were equipped with advanced sonar systems that allowed them to scan the ocean floor in unprecedented depth. The AUVs used a variety of sonar technologies, such as side-scan sonar, synthetic aperture sonar, and multi-beam sonar, each serving a different function to map the ocean floor, detect any objects, and produce highly detailed images of the terrain. These high-tech sonar systems were capable of producing sharp, high-resolution images of the sea floor, allowing search teams to peer through layers of sediment and even detect small pieces of debris that might have been overlooked in earlier searches. In addition to sonar, the AUVs were also equipped with sub-bottom profiling sonar, which helped the search teams examine the ocean floor beneath the sediment. This was especially important because it was possible that parts of the wreckage had been buried over time, making them more difficult to locate. The ability to scan both the surface and the subsurface of the ocean floor significantly increased the chances of finding the missing plane. The use of autonomous underwater vehicles marked a significant leap forward in the search for MH370, as they allowed investigators to cover vast areas of the ocean floor without the need for human divers or ships. These AUVs were capable of working in remote areas where human access was impossible, performing detailed surveys of the ocean floor and transmitting data back to the surface in real time. With the ability to operate continuously for long periods, these underwater drones revolutionized the way search efforts were conducted. Another key development in the search for MH370 was the involvement of a company called Ocean Infinity. This private company, specializing in deep-sea exploration, joined the search in 2020, offering to continue the hunt for the missing plane using its state-of-the-art technology. Ocean Infinity brought in a fleet of autonomous underwater vehicles and a large vessel called the Armada 7806, which was essentially a mobile command center for the search mission. The Armada 7806 was a massive ship, 78 meters long, equipped with the latest tools for ocean exploration. It was specifically designed for deep-sea missions and served as the base of operations for the fleet of drones. The goal of Ocean Infinity's mission was clear: to search areas of the Indian Ocean that had not yet been explored, and to do so with greater efficiency and precision than previous search efforts. The company offered a no-find, no-fee deal, meaning they would only get paid if they successfully located the wreckage of Flight MH370. This motivated the team to push the limits of underwater exploration and search areas that had been previously overlooked. Ocean Infinity's deal was seen as a fresh approach, and the company's use of advanced technology brought renewed hope that the plane could finally be located. As the search efforts continued, the technology used in the mission became increasingly sophisticated. One of the most innovative tools used by Ocean Infinity was the Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, WSPR, a radio signal tracking system. Originally designed for amateur radio enthusiasts, WSPR was now being employed by experts to track potential signals that could have been transmitted by the missing plane. The idea was that the WSPR system could detect weak radio signals that might have bounced off the aircraft during its final moments, providing a critical clue in pinpointing its location. Experts believe that the data collected from the WSPR system could help track the path of the plane after it lost communication with ground control. Richard Godfrey, an aerospace engineer involved in the search, believed that the WSPR system had detected 313 anomalies in the signal data at the estimated time and location of MH370's disappearance. This information, if confirmed, could potentially lead investigators to the plane's final resting place. However, the reliability of the WSPR data was debated, with some experts arguing that the signals were too weak to be of much use. Despite the controversy surrounding the system, the possibility that it could provide vital clues kept investigators optimistic. In addition to the WSPR system, Ocean Infinity used artificial intelligence (AI) to help analyze vast amounts of data collected during the search. AI played a critical role in refining search areas, analyzing satellite data, and processing ocean current models to predict where the wreckage might be located. The use of AI allowed the search team to process data much more efficiently and accurately than would have been possible with traditional methods. By combining AI with the expertise of human investigators, Ocean Infinity was able to approach the search from a more scientific and data-driven perspective, increasing the chances of success. As the search continued into 2025, the focus was on a new search zone in the southern Indian Ocean, an area that had never been fully explored. This zone was located between 1,560 and 2,400 kilometers west of Perth, Australia, a region that was previously believed to be too remote and difficult to reach. The new search area was determined by reanalyzing all the data collected over the previous years and refining the search models. By re-examining the available evidence and applying new technologies, investigators were able to identify areas that had not been adequately searched in earlier efforts. The terrain of the new search zone was particularly challenging. The area was marked by underwater cliffs, mountain ridges, and even underwater volcanoes, making it one of the most difficult environments to navigate. The search was further complicated by the extreme depth of the ocean in certain areas, with parts of the ocean floor plunging as deep as 7,400 meters. This was equivalent to searching the bottom of a canyon in the dark, making the task even more daunting. The ocean in this area was largely unexplored, and the lack of shipping lanes and regular traffic meant that very little was known about the region's features. Despite the difficult conditions, the new search area represented the best hope for finally solving the mystery of Flight MH370. The Comptical Portas was Beijing 70 Debuer Sikten. The search teams worked tirelessly, using a combination of AUV sonar technology and AI to scan the ocean floor. Each dive was meticulously planned, and the teams operated within a limited weather window, as the best conditions for searching existed only between January and April each year. The search was expected to take as long as 18 months to complete, but the progress made by Ocean Infinity was seen as a promising step forward. As we reach the final stages of the search for Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, There is a growing sense that the technology and techniques now being used in the search could finally lead to a breakthrough. After years of searching, speculating, and hoping, new advancements in underwater exploration and signal tracking have brought fresh hope to the investigation. The question that everyone has been asking for over a decade remains: where is Flight MH370? Could the technology available now finally be the key to solving one of aviation's greatest mysteries? In 2025, the Malaysian government approved another search operation, this time with renewed confidence and a commitment to finding answers. Ocean Infinity, the private company that had previously contributed to the search efforts, was brought in again to lead the renewed mission. The company had proven its capability in previous years, and this time, the stakes were even higher. The deal that Ocean Infinity offered was compelling. They would only get paid if they found the wreckage of MH370 under a no-find, no-fee agreement. This arrangement not only motivated the team to push forward, but also created an additional sense of urgency, as the potential reward for success was significant. If they found the wreckage, they would walk away with $70 million. The mission had a clear focus to use the most advanced technology available to explore areas of the Indian Ocean that had previously been overlooked or inadequately searched. In previous efforts, large areas of the ocean had been scanned using autonomous underwater AUV. There were still regions that had not been fully explored. With new data and improved technology, it was possible that the wreckage could finally be located in these uncharted areas. The key to this new phase of the search was the Armada 7806, a massive research vessel equipped with state-of-the-art technology. The ship was 78 meters long and was specifically designed for deep-sea exploration. It was packed with equipment that would allow it to serve as a mobile command center for the search operation. The Armada 7008 was more than just a ship. It was a fully equipped platform that would house the latest tools for underwater exploration and provide a base for launching the fleet of AUVs that would scour the ocean floor. The AUVs were the most important part of the search. These underwater drones, capable of diving to depths of up to 6,000 meters, were equipped with advanced sonar systems that would allow them to map the ocean floor in unprecedented detail. These AUVs could scan vast areas of the seabed without needing to be manned, working autonomously for long periods. The drones could stay submerged for up to 100 hours at a time, collecting data and sending it back to the ship for analysis. Each AUV was equipped with a range of sonar technologies that allowed it to detect even the smallest objects on the ocean floor. Sidescan sonar provided sharp, high-resolution images of the sea, while synthetic aperture sonar allowed the drones to detect objects that were partially buried under sediment. Multi-beam sonar mapped the ocean floor in 3 dimensions, creating a detailed landscape of the terrain, which was crucial for understanding the features of the ocean floor in the search area. Additionally, the AUVs were equipped with sub-bottom profiling sonar, which allowed them to peer below the surface of the ocean floor. This technology was particularly important because the wreckage of Flight MH370 could have been buried under layers of sediment, making it difficult to detect with traditional sonar systems. The ability to look beneath the seabed added another layer of capability to the search, providing a more thorough examination of the area where the wreckage was believed to be. The technology being used in the search for MH370 was far more advanced than what was available during the initial search efforts in 2020. The autonomous vehicles, combined with the ship's cutting-edge sonar, represented a significant leap forward in underwater exploration. But it wasn't just the hardware that made this new search effort different. It was also the way the data was being analyzed. Artificial intelligence (AI) played a crucial role in processing the vast amounts of data being collected by the AUVs. By using AI, Ocean Infinity was able to quickly analyze the data and pinpoint areas of interest in real time, significantly speeding up the search process. The AI systems were not only used for processing sonar data but also for analyzing satellite imagery, ocean current models, and past search results. This made it possible to refine the search area focusing on the regions that were most likely to contain the wreckage. The combination of advanced technology and AI created a search process that was more efficient and effective than any previous efforts. As the search moved forward, the focus was on a 15,000 square kilometer zone located in the southern Indian Ocean, an area that had never been fully explored before. This new search zone was located between 1,860 and 2,400 kilometers west of Perth, Australia, a region that had been overlooked in earlier search efforts. The location was chosen based on new data models that had been refined and reanalyzed over the years. This new approach to the search was based on a deeper understanding of the available data, and the hope was that this more refined search would lead to a successful discovery. The ocean floor in this region presented numerous challenges. It was marked by underwater cliffs, deep canyons, and towering ridges. Some parts of the ocean floor were more than 7,400 meters, making the task of locating the wreckage even more daunting. This type of terrain is difficult to navigate and requires highly specialized equipment to explore. Additionally, the area was so remote that it lacked any significant human activity, meaning there were no shipping lanes or regular traffic to help guide the search efforts. Despite the challenges, the new search zone offered the best hope of finding the wreckage of MH370. The technology available in 2025 was far superior to what was available in 2014, and the collaboration between international teams, aided by the use of advanced drones and AI, gave the search a renewed sense of purpose. The operation was expected to take as long as 18 months to complete, but the progress made so far had been promising. One of the most interesting aspects of this new search was the use of weak signal propagation reporter WSPR technology. This system, originally developed for amateur radio, was being used to track potential signals that could have been transmitted by the missing plane. Some experts believe that WSPR could track the path of MH370 after it lost contact with ground control. Richard Godfrey, an aerospace engineer, had analyzed data from the WSPR system and identified 300 anomalies in the signal data at the estimated time and location of the plane's disappearance. While some experts were skeptical about the validity of this data, others believed it could provide crucial clues that would help locate the wreckage. The use of WSPR technology was controversial, as some argued that the signals were too weak to provide useful information. However, the sheer number of anomalies detected was enough to keep the search signal to further confirms they could provide a critical lead in narrowing down the location of the wreckage. The search for flight MH370 was not just about finding a plane, it was about providing closure to the families of the passengers and crew who had been waiting for answers for over a decade. The emotional toll on the families was immense, as they had been living in limbo, hoping for any news that would give them peace of mind. For them, the search was not just about solving a mystery, it was about finding their loved ones and understanding what happened to them. As the search continued in 2025, there was a sense that this time, the operation might finally succeed. The combination of new technology, better data analysis, and a more focused search area made it possible that the wreckage of MH3 would be located. However, the task was far from simple, and the ocean's depths held many secrets. But as the search continued, the hope for closure remained, and the possibility that the ocean would finally give up its secrets was within reach. The mystery of MH370 had haunted the world for more than a decade, and the unanswered questions had left a lasting impact on everyone involved. The hope was that, with the advancements in technology and the relentless determination of those involved in the search, the truth would finally be uncovered. The families of the passengers had waited for far too long, and they deserved the answers that had eluded them for so many years. The search for MH370 was more than just an aviation mystery. It was about finding truth and bringing closure to those who had lost so much. As the investigation continued, the world watched with bated breath, hoping that this time, the search would be successful, and that the final piece of the puzzle would be found.